Good evening and welcome to Scrapbooking with a Twist. We're going to do another layout for the whole Kit and Caboodle. If you have not looked over on Ginger's Corner, you are missing out. There will be a link in the description that will take you to where you can see other people's Kit and Caboodle creations. There are several that are playing along and it's really a lot of fun. I watched several of them last night and it was fun. Tonight, remember, I'm taking you on a trip to Turkey, that I took way back in 2013. And we are still in the region of Cappadocia, however you want to say it. And tonight, I'm going to show you some more of those just really strange land formations. This one to me, this was the neatest of all the second neatest of all of the land formations. But I've got to kind of do this systematically because there's a lot to this layout. And this layout, I've been telling you that they're picture heavy and embellishment light. Well, this one tonight is more embellishment heavy. So it's going to have quite a few embellishments with it. For some reason, I just decided they fit with this. This is going to be a little flip-flap on top of another flip-flap where we went to and I don't even remember how to say this, Gourmet Open Air Museum. And I am going to do Let's Explore Cappadocia, however you want to say it. So, and I actually kind of meant to go ahead and glue these down before I started this video and I didn't get it done. So let me just find my fine tip glue and I'm gonna do those very quick because I'm gonna put it on there. Not that I wouldn't know where we were, but I just want it on there. This is Mother's Day. I'm filming this like about 7:30, I guess, or so in the evening of Mother's Day. We had a great day. Of course, my daughter and her family still go to church where I go to church. You know, I should figure out what the center of Cappadocia is and center this because it won't turn out centered if I don't. And I'm gluing it. There's nothing going to be temporary about it. So let me look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So somewhere around the A is where I need centered. And it's not going to be perfect, I can guarantee you. But anyway, my son and daughter-in-law and their 2 boys came to church there this morning. And my son actually came to my Sunday school class and attended it. Oh, I asked him to pray at the end of class, and oh my goodness, he just absolutely thrilled my heart. I prayed all of their lives, I mean, from before they were born, you know, that God would just use them and be in their hearts and keep them close to Him and all of that kind of stuff. And it was nothing I did, absolutely nothing I did. It was just God answering my prayers. And it just thrilled my heart to have him there and for him to pray that sweet prayer today. Thrilled this mama's heart. So while I'm doing this, let me go ahead and do the twist. The twist night's going to be a little different. It is Mother's Day. And our pastor always asks me to do something for Mother's Day, some kind of little presentation and some kind of like devotional type thing. And sometimes I read a poem or I do something, but nothing just was coming up that I really liked. And so I just kind of kept coming. I thought, well, maybe just talk about one of the Bible stories about a mother or something. And I just kind of kept coming back to Moses. I'd look and look, and then I'd kind of come back to Moses. And I thought, okay, all right, I'll just do Moses. And then the more I began to we've all heard the story of Moses all of our lives. The more I began to dissect the story of Moses, I thought, that is really pretty awesome, because I always try to emphasize that mothers are not just birth mothers. There are mothers that are stepmothers. There are mothers that are adopted mothers, which, like my daughter is. And there are people who step up and just fill the gap that's needed when mothers are absent or struggle or whatever. And so I thought, oh my goodness, the story of Moses hits every single one of those to some degree. Of course, there was his birth mother who literally defied the power of the world in that day and time when she refused to let her son, because Pharaoh had sent out an edict that the midwives kill all of the Israelite boy babies when they at birth. And she was like, not going to kill my baby. I'm going to do whatever I can do, but you're not killing my baby. And then there were the midwives who would go back to Pharaoh. They didn't want to kill those babies. And they would go back to Pharaoh and they'd say, these Israelite women just aren't like Egyptian women. They have their babies before we can get to them. We can't kill them because we can't get to them before they have them. And so certainly his mother, certainly the midwives played a role. And then there was the Pharaoh's daughter. Sometimes we don't really talk about her much, but she was extremely important in Moses' life. Here she is out, I guess by the river or bathing or whatever one day, and she sees this basket with an infant in it, and she knows that it's a slave baby. I mean, it wouldn't have been a surprise if she hadn't called for guards and said, here, take this baby. They're supposed to be killed. Somebody's trying to hide their baby. It wouldn't have been a surprising thing had she done that. And instead, she opened her heart to a slave baby. And so all three of those women played an enormous role in the life of Moses. A birth mother, women that just loved because they loved children, and the midwives, and then Pharaoh's daughter who opened her heart and took in a slave baby to love and to raise and to be her own. Sometimes I think we credit Moses' mother with devising this plan, and it worked, but God had a plan for Moses long before Moses' mother even knew that Moses was going to be here. God had a plan for him, and it's amazing how God's plans come together and work out. And he had each of those women playing an important role in his plan to use Moses. Okay, so there we have. I want to kind of finish the twist before I say anything else. So mothers, no matter who you are, no matter how you mothered, whether you gave birth or whether you are a stepmother or an adopted mother or just someone who loves and mothers to fill the gap, never, ever, ever think that your role is insignificant. Mothers, I think, fathers are important, and I don't mean to downplay the role of fathers, and we may talk about fathers in a few weeks when it's Father's Day, but the role of mother is just extremely unique. And just, poll after poll after poll, when they ask people who was the most influential person in your life, and it's like almost in the high 99%, their mother. God entrusts children that he allows to come into this world to their mothers. And that's a huge responsibility that we raise them to know the Lord and to be sensitive to what the Lord wants for their lives, and that we prepare them to accept the Lord and to do his will in their lives. So our role as mothers is just to me, an amazing role, but we need to never, ever, ever forget the responsibility that accompanies it. Will we make mistakes? Absolutely, we do every day. Probably I do. We make unbelievable mistakes sometimes. But God knew that when He entrusted them to us. He knew we would do that. And so just to do the best that we can, to rely on God, to trust in Him, to give us the strength and the wisdom to raise them the way He wants us to, and just to keep on trying and to keep on trying. And until we take our very last breath, we are not through being mothers. No matter how they may want us to be, no matter how estranged they may be, we're still their mothers. They may run from us, they may run from church, but I think I've done this before in our little thought for the day, but they can't run from God and they can't run from our prayers. So we never, ever stop being mothers. Okay, I think I'm ready now. I put this on wax paper a long time ago, and wax paper is great if you use it pretty soon, but I had this stuck on there a long time ago. This is just a little strip. It's a little border strip that has map on it. I don't know if you can see that too well, but it's like cut from map paper. And I think it was a part of that travel sticker page maybe that I had. Not the Echo Park one, but maybe something else. May have been in that paper pad. I'm not sure where I got it, to be real honest about it. But we're going to put it down right along the edge of where these papers are sewn together. It's a sticker, but I don't trust it, and especially along this stitching. So, and of course, this is going to be the companion page to the page where we rode the hot air balloons. So that's got that used up. All right, so we have, and I've already put the picture. This is the picture of the museum, this open air museum that we were going to. And like I said, it's Gorim or something, open air museum, and then it's in the region of Cappadocia. So I want to go ahead and finish this little flip flap that I'm going to put up here. And I've already glued, you've watched me do these flip flaps a dozen times now. I've already glued that together. And I'm going to actually glue the flip flaps together because this is a little double flip flap. So let's put this one on here. Generous with the glue when we're gluing these flip flaps. And then we're going to put this one on this one. And I kind of want to center it. I put glue all the way, but that's not going to hurt anything. And then we're going to push that down. I'm going to show you these land formations in a minute. There are some really, really unique land formations in Turkey. It was fun to see them, really unique. Okay, and then we're going to glue this flip flap in here on this side. So let me just kind of talk you through these pictures. I've told you before, that needs to move down a little. It was a volcanic region, and then it left some real soft spots. Well, they would just carve these out in those soft spots and carve homes out back in these mountains. And so if it was a soft spot, they'd just start carving. And there were monasteries, there were homes, there were churches, everything else in these places that they just dug out of the mountain. Or it's not really a mountain, but the hillside, I guess, would be these volcanic places. Okay, let's get us some generous glue on here. And then pull this down and glue it right up here. And we will have our flip flap. Let that dry just a minute. So my daughter decided that we would all go to Fort Worth. We live just outside of Fort Worth in a smaller community. She decided that we would go to Fort Worth and that we would eat. And we're like, everywhere is going to have lines. I know, but I want to go to Fort Worth and I want to eat. I want us to eat out someplace really nice. Because like back before my daughter and son, you know, they were mothers, before my daughter-in-law and my daughter were mothers, and it was just me and I got to choose what we did on Mother's Day, I would always choose to go to the mall, eat in the food court where anybody could get whatever they wanted, and then go to a movie. That was my Mother's Day. That's what I wanted to do. And we did that for years. And of course now they're both mothers, so they get to, you know, help make the decisions. So, all right, so here's what we've got so far. Our little sign pointing to the museum and the fact that we're exploring Cappadocia. And then here is one picture of those cutout places. And then this is me standing in the doorway of one. And then these were like little mailboxes. It was almost like apartments, but except they're ancient, of course, in this place. Now, this one is going to go under here, and I've already put my, what have I got? Oh, my journaling on here. And it just says, the Gorim Open Air Museum. Ancient volcanoes left soft rock that could be carved out for houses, churches, and monasteries. This same soft rock eroded to form the fairy chimneys, and I'm going to show those to you in a minute. And those were what just absolutely fascinated me. These do too. And this is, I'm not going to pull it up because I kind of have it on there the way I want it. This is a, I don't have them out right now. This is a rub-on from that nature study by, 49 and Market. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I don't have my little thing that I normally do rub-ons with, so I'm going to try it with this, and I hope it works. These 49 in Market's are really good ones, so hopefully it will do fine. Let me lift it and see how we're doing. This is not attached, so I can get it down however I want to. And it just says, the magic of Mother Nature. And I'm telling you, it does seem kind of magical there. So I want to glue that down so that it's under the flip flap. My glue bottle is just about empty. I've got some bigger ones I can refill with. All right. Okay, so that's got the flip flap finished. All right, now I'm going to go on to these fairy chimneys that I was talking about. I kind of laid this out, not like totally, but kind of laid it out, so I divided it into the areas that I was going to actually do. So these are the embellishments for this. So this is me standing in front of one of these things that they call fairy chimneys. They're like this mushroom looking thing, or you can just let your imagination roll and think it looks like anything you want to. I'm not going to go there, but yeah, it does look like that too. But and they're everywhere. This was just one that was easy to get a picture in front of, but they are everywhere. And just, how does nature even do that? I don't know. And then here, and nothing has been cleared away by machines. This is literally the way nature did it. Just crazy, isn't it? So I think I want to slant that and do that. You know what, though? I think I want to ink that. Like I said, I'm kind of doing some of this just, by the seat of my pants as we go. But I think this is kind of turning out to be a little bit vintagey, these layouts. And so I really like the inking with them. And especially on white core paper, which this is. Inking goes faster if you use like those brushes that have the little ones that Velcro on and off, but my little finger daubers are just so handy. Okay, there we go. I like that better. There's probably a couple of other things. I'll end up wanting to do that too also. All right, so we've got to keep this, yes, that'll be fine, so that it's on the page. That's most important. So there we go. And then I want this just over it, kind of like that. And then I've got this little embellishment that I want to put right down here. So I think that's a good spot for that. I do want a little bit of glue on this one. Doesn't have to be too much, but just glue down some. I can put some tape in there too. Okay, and then I'm just going to build this little cluster right down here. All these mushrooms that I'm using today are also from that Nature Study collection from 49 in Market. And I just kind of wanted maybe even a little bit of a slant out like that. I've got a sentiment that we can put down here if we want to, maybe something like that. I've got these little I keep my this is a bracelet that my daughter got me. It's a mother-daughter bracelet. I love it. The 2 rings for the mother and the daughter, and then she has one like it, and then she gave my daughter-in-law one that's for the daughter-in-law, or actually I think it's for a sister-in-law. She wouldn't have given, but anyway, I love it. Let's see what we want here. How do we want this? How do we want this? I need to poke a little thing out on this one. There we go. Like I said, I didn't really do these in completion. I just kind of set them out and said, yeah, I think that's what I want. So that's Let's see. Don't really want to glue too much to my picture there. Not sure I want anything on my picture, actually. All right, let's get started with the tag. I'm going to give it just a little bit of a slant so that I can put my mushrooms straight. And these are good, pretty heavy. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I love it when I just totally lose. And we could go ahead and like sort of place these here. And I used a bunch of just the things that I had already punched and cut to use up some of those things in this. Let's see, get a little more glue back there. Let's see. Hey, you come back here. Let's see what that looks like. I hope y'all have been watching this hop because it is fun. Some people have made some really fun layouts, and it's fun. It's a good one. I'm going to use this. So let me get this up for a second. I don't really want to put anything in that hole, but I don't want to leave the hole. And I had this one little kind of golden, it's kind of almost a geotag shape. I don't know for sure what it is. But I thought, you know what better place to use this? I got a little glue wild there. It's sticking to me and not the thing. There we go. But anyway, that's going to cover my tag hole. Then let's get these on here. It doesn't show much, but I just didn't want that hole showing back there. Okay, now let's get this on there. There we go. And then we're going to put this on there, and I'll go back. I don't have any foam out to do this. I'm just going to glue it to right here, and then I'll come back and I'll put a little bit of foam under this one edge before I put it away. New discoveries. Okay, so that's got this side, I think, done. Now then, let's work on this side. Like I said, this one has more embellishments than the others have had. All right, let's start up here on this corner and kind of lay these out because I can't, I'm going to have, I don't want to overlap, and so I need to kind of place them. But I used a couple of little frames on this. I thought the frames kind of reminded me of the door openings, even though most of them, the one where I'm standing over there is kind of squared away, but most of them were just strange shapes. Wherever it was soft and they could easily dig it out is what they were. Okay, and there's one. And then I was gonna stick this little tag thing in under there if I could. I think I can. Maybe pull that out a little more. And then I have these that I thought I might do a little something at one of the corners. So I've got an embellishment here. And then we'll see where we need this one, because this one is going to have, here is a picture. Now, I need to kind of, I think, overlap these. Yes, just a tiny bit. Okay, this one, of course, has more of these fairy chimneys. And aren't they just amusing? I mean, literally amusing to me. I knew I was going to do this, and I still, what am I bumping on? Oh, I think that's it right there, where I actually glued the tag, because I didn't put glue out on this edge because I knew I was going to be pushing this in under there. Now, there, we got it. All right, so I need this in under there. I think about like that. So let's go ahead and get that down. Yep, I am definitely going to have to do a refill on the glue. It is about gone. Let's see, I don't want any right up there because I'm going to do some, oh, that's the bottom. I can have there. Oh, yeah. And then this is right where I can't have glue right yet because I've got some things I'm going to stick in under there. So let's get this in place. But these fairy chimneys are just, I mean, they're whimsical looking, and but they just are kind of mesmerizing, and they're just everywhere. We saw them when we flew in the hot air balloon, and then this area just has them like thick. And this is kind of, this isn't right where this isn't that, I mean, it's all Cappadocia, but it's not the area where we actually did the hot air balloons. I'm going to go ahead, since this matches that, I'm going to go ahead and ink it just a little. And I'm using ground espresso today. You know I use my vintage photo a lot. And you know what's funny is when I heard someone say, oh, vintage photos just kind of my go-to for my brown. And I thought, oh, I just don't know. I don't know that I'm going to like that. And sure enough, it turned out to kind of be my go-to. It and the ground espresso are my favorites. And I want to tuck this in, just barely tuck it in under this. You know what? I may want it here on top. Yes, I do. I want it actually so that you don't see the matting of the top of that picture. And then, and I just can barely glue this. Use my fine tip because I've got a bunch of mushrooms that I'm going to tuck in across there. So for right now, I'm just barely going to put this down, and then we'll stabilize it more in a minute. Okay, and I think I may need to trim it just a tiny bit. Actually, it goes to the edge of the page. That's perfect, and I think I'm just going to leave it. All right, so there's that. Now, these are also mushrooms that came out of that nature study, and I want to just tuck them in. I thought, why not use the, when I got that nature study, I thought, how in the world am I ever going to use all those mushrooms? And then when this layout started shaping up, I thought, mushrooms. I can use mushrooms in this layout. I can do it. I'm going to kind of double these up so that I don't want to junk them up, but I want to double them up so that I want to do something right there. Okay, I think that may be kind of how I leave it. And then I think I'll do this little, I know that's embellishment heavy on the bottom, so I may see about pulling this down. That still leaves me more room down here. Well, now I just don't know. But I know I want those there, so let's do it. And I'm just going to put a little dot of glue in behind some of the mushrooms, and they'll be fine. And these are the acrylic pieces, and I love using them. But I just, like I said, this collection just had so many mushrooms. I'm like, how in the world am I ever going to use all those mushrooms? But here was the place. This was it. Oops, scoot over a little. Hey, I've got my fingers sticky, so it's hard to. You are not cooperating. There we go. There we go. I think that's as good as it's going to get. And then across here, I'm going to put Curious. This was in, I believe that came out of the 49 in Market also. And I thought, how appropriate, because these things are very curious. So we're just going to use that. That I'm using that as my title. Curious. Okay. And then this up here will be the end of it. And so I'm going to pull this down just a little. I don't want to get into my mushrooms. Pull this down just a little, just so I can see that that's a frame. So let's go ahead and glue this frame a little. Then we'll glue our picture and then work on this corner beside. I'm going to leave a little bit. Let's see, I got to think of where I am. That's the bottom where I'm going to be tucking, but not this side. Okay, I'm going to do that for now. Okay. There's that. And then I want this frame down here, and I can probably get that in under my mushroom if I work at it. Yep. And then I really wanted that to pull that gold on down here. And then I wanted these little things. I really, really, really wanted them up here, but there's just not enough room, and there is room down here. So I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. So we're going to put it here. It isn't exactly what I would do if I had a little more room up there. I would like the embellishments, but you know what? It is what it is. And that's where the room is. So that's what we're going to do. That is what we're going to do. Come here. these are, I love the 49 in Market embellishments, but these, some of them were a little hard to use because there were, like I said, so many of the mushrooms and everything, but I'm about to get it done. All right, I'm just gonna layer these up and call it good. I'm sure when you see it in the layout share, I will have added something, but you never know. Okay, I got to get these where they're not off the side of the page. And do I want to use a white one or the other blue one? Let's see. If I do this, then I have 4 instead of 5, though. You know what? I don't care. It's an even number, but I don't care. I kind of like it. So I'm going to do it. Want them all coming out of the kind of the same spot. That's good. And then I'm going to just put this little white one right in on top. It almost covers the gold one, so you don't even really realize it was there. Now let's see if I can just get a glob of glue in there for the photo. And that'll hold it all. You know, I actually have a little gold one that I might could put in like that. And that would get me back to my odd number. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to leave it like that. All right. So there we have another one in the books for the whole Kit and Caboodle. And this is the area of Cappadocia and the Garim, or however you say it, open air museum. And then this is actually kind of, I guess, the town of Cappadocia. And look at all of the dwellings that are in those kinds of land formations, for lack of better description. But it was an amazing trip, and this was just super neat to see. So there's our flip flap. I probably will end up putting something right up here, but I just don't know what yet. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for, I know these are getting long, but I just can't seem to get them any faster. So thanks for stopping by. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Hit the like button if you liked it. And, woo, that's bad glare over there. And just have a blessed day and be a blessing to someone else.